of course, eventually passed.
Is this a split call?
It's a split call, that's correct.
Right, 5 minutes.
Thank
Ruth
you.
Dyson, the Honourable.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I begin by congratulating the Minister and say that it's an excellent bill to have as your first bill in a new portfolio, and I'm sure that the Honourable Nathan Guy will be justifiably pleased that it's fallen in his hands to present to the House. And I'm really pleased that Labour's supporting it. Mr Speaker, there's just 3 points that I want to make about it. But before I do, can I say that the issue of foreign charter vessels and abuse of crews has been a very real issue for me as the Member of Parliament within whose electorate the Port of Littleton is. We have a large number of foreign crews in our electorate, and the stories of abuse are shocking. They really upset people, and I want to pay tribute to the people of Littleton and Sumner particularly, who have literally taken foreign crew into their own homes to support them in the way that we would want New Zealand to be regarded as supporting people who come to our shores to work. So the first point that I want to make, Mr Speaker, is that this bill requires New Zealand flagging, and that's been an issue of considerable debate, actually since day one of my time in the House, and I think that it's a move whose time has certainly come, and it will improve the ability not just of the officials to know what's going on, because there's always some debate about what regulation, what legislation applies to different vessels, but for absolute clarity that the Department of Labour will be able to monitor all the legislation and regulation as if it was a totally New Zealand owned and operated business. So that clarity is going to be really helpful for our officials. I want the officials to know that they will have the backing of all parties in this Parliament if they see any abuse of workers, because it's not just terrible for the workers involved to be treated so badly, it also really damages New Zealand's reputation to have our name attached to abuse of workers, and I don't think anyone in the House would like to see that. So that's the first point. Is the most important part of this bill is the fact that all ships will be New Zealand flagged. The second point I want to make is about something the bill doesn't do, and I hope the Select Committee is able to remedy it. It doesn't do anything to address the other issue, which is of concern at any time, but of course more so in times of high unemployment, as we have tragically now under the do-nothing, hands-off national-led government. So the displacement of jobs that New Zealanders could take but are currently being filled by these foreign crew is something that I think the Select Committee ought to address. We have a large number of young people who I think would thrive if they were in that environment. It's a hard life, it requires a lot of discipline, but I know that many of our young people particularly would respond very well to that opportunity. So hopefully the issue of jobs for New Zealanders on these charter vessels will be looked at as well. The third point that I want to make in my contribution to this debate is the length of time before this is going to be implemented. I can't recall any bill that has a waiting time of 4 years. That's nearly the time from a baby being born to starting school. It's a large amount of time, and it's totally unnecessary. It means that we are condoning bad practice while the whole of Parliament is admitting it exists, agrees on the solution. It will go through a Select Committee process and maybe tidied up. But then we're saying, and we'll wait for 4 years to implement it. I don't understand that, Mr Speaker, and it's one of the very few issues on which the maritime lawyers and the Maritime Union are totally at one. They say it's too long as well, and I would want to be hearing from the officials at the Select Committee and perhaps even from the Minister during the committee stage, if the Select Committee doesn't fix this up, as some justification for this taking so long. So, Mr Speaker, as I said at the beginning, it's a real pleasure for me to be part of the Labour team that is standing in support of this bill. What it does is excellent, and it will make a real difference to people who are actually in very vulnerable situations. When you're on the other side of the world and your job is on a ship, and you can't speak necessarily the first language of the country in which you're in the port of, you are in a very vulnerable situation. So we're saying we're standing beside those workers. We want to improve their conditions. I hope we also make up opportunities for New Zealanders to have jobs as well.
Gareth Hughes.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou kia ora. I rise to speak in support of the fisheries, foreign charter vessels and other matters.